Hey there folks, my name is Andrew Ray, you might know me as Babish, and this is my new show. It is an uninterrupted cook-along. In this episode, I'm going to prepare a dish from front to back in real time. This is a show you can put on in the background or while you fall asleep, or my favorite, you can cook right along with me. The recipe for this episode is in the video description, but if you want gear lists and access to the full library of BCU recipes, head to babi.sh, that's babi.sh, and sign up today. It is $10 a year. That's less than $1 a month. Today, I'm gonna make French onion soup. It's cold out, I'm in the mood. I just had a really good French onion soup over the weekend, and it inspired me. And as always, you can check out Bangers with Babish on Spotify. That is my list of preferred cooking tunes, or you can put on the music of your choice. There will be no music underneath this show, just delicious cooking sounds and my delicious voice. So I tried something new, which is that I sketched out the prospective dish. I'm not a very good artist, but I've been enjoying just making this kind of breakdown. Let me show you on the close-up here. The anatomy of today's French onion soup. As you can see, the requisite melted Gruyere. We're also going to use a little bit of Parmesan. That helps with the nice brown spots. Then we've got the baguette toasts, and you'll notice that those baguette toasts are topped with bone marrow. I'm going to incorporate bone marrow into this recipe to maximize beefiness, and because I have a pair of bone marrow bones that I felt like using. Then we have the bone broth, which is going to be laden, of course, with lots and lots and lots of caramelized onions. And then I'm going to throw some flavor boosters in there, some Cabernet Sauvignon, just because I have a really nice bottle left over here, and it's going to make for a good addition. I put down Calvados, but I didn't get Calvados, so I've got some Calvados is an apple brandy that goes really nice in French onion soup. So I have some brandy, that's going to be fine. Then I'm also going to add some fish sauce and Marmite for more umami boosters, as umami boosters. And down in the bottom, there's more broth. So that is the anatomy of today's French onion soup. I hope you guys give this a try, cook along with me, or just take in the sights and sounds. I know that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I know I have an onion in front of me. This is just set dressing. The real party is going to start with the marrow bones, which I have in the fridge, if you'll excuse me. To prep for this, I watched an episode, an Alton Brown Good Eats episode to get ready here and just learn a couple tips about bone marrow. And first thing Alton did was brine the bones. And this worked out threefold because my bones were frozen. So I needed to thaw the bones. I wanted to brine them. Brining deeply seasons the marrow, and it helps draw out hemoglobin and blood and impurities and things that are hanging out in there that you don't want to end up in the final product. So this is a very handy method for getting your bones ready for roasting. I believe it helps sort of bleach the bones as well, so they end up whiter, which, I don't know, I think it looks cool when you got nice dark brown marrow bones. It's a good look. He had one other trick up his sleeve that I want to try just because it looked so freaking satisfying. So, ooh, that is noisy. It's a good thing we employ volume limiters that should ameliorate that level of noise. I don't know why I'm taking that off, so I'm gonna leave it there. So I'm gonna fish these out and put them onto some paper towels just to dry them off. There we go. Bone marrow bones. These, I believe, were left over from the 7 Fishes episode? When did I make bone marrow? It was for the show. It was for the one of the shows. This feels really stiff. I wonder if it's still frozen. Let's poke it more. Put this in the sink. Because it's gross looking. So, let's see here. This is all the marrow and it feels really solid. It's making me wonder if it's still frozen. Either way, we're not just straight up serving these marrow bones. If we were, I might want to make sure that they're fully defrosted. But for the most part, I'm rendering out the fat and softening the marrow. My plan is to do one of two things, either scoop out the marrow, and usually with that comes a whole bunch of liquid fat, or I could render out the liquid fat and basically dip the toasts in that and use that as the fat for toasting them, or scoop out the marrow and just spread it on there like beef butter. All right, so these guys are nice and dry. We can always dry them a little bit more later. Normally you'd want to scrape down all this junk off the outside of the bone, because for presentation's sake, if you were making just normal marrow bones, you wouldn't want all this the stuff hanging off. But here's the trick, is that you need bone broth to make French onion soup. You follow me? These are bones. So I'm not going to make bone broth today, but I am going to make it off camera. I'm going to save these bones and some of the other aromatics involved in this recipe and use them to make bone broth, which, hey, maybe we'll use on a future episode. Now, don't lose me, Rover. Rover's with me. For those of you who haven't met him, this is my robotic camera operator, Rover. Rover's currently tracking my face and following my every move. So, this is the trick I saw Mr. Brown do. Basically, sometimes Rover loses me when I go underneath the table for the uninitiated. Anyway, Mr. Brown takes some of this aluminum foil, inverts the bones, cut side down, and then you just sort of take the foil and crinkle it up in there like this, filling up the negative space, and then simply invert once again. Oh, no, that worked quite handsomely. And as you can see, it basically creates these two little custom craters for these marrow bones so that they don't flip-flop all here, there, and everywhere. So I have the oven preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Normally you could do 450. I'm gonna do 400 just because I'm just, again, this is not for presentation. This is just to get the marrow out so I can use it. So in it goes to our preheated 400 degree Fahrenheit oven for, I'm thinking 20 minutes to start. Basically, we just want the marrow to be a little puffy, we want it to be lightly browned, and we want the fat to be starting to render out. I'm hoping that aluminum foil will also act as kind of a fat catch so that not all that fat goes everywhere, and I'll be able to reserve as much of it as possible. I want to make those toasts little harbingers of beefy doom. We'll do the toasts in a moment. I think 20 minutes is probably best spent cutting onions. And we need lots and lots of onions. Rover's with me, cool. This is also going to be an interesting test because, as I mentioned in the last episode, Matty Matheson very famously said, if you got a dull knife, you're an effing loser. Basically blamed dull knives for, if you start crying when you cut onions. And that's definitely a thing. If you have a dull knife, you're rupturing more cells that contain the noxious gases that make you cry. So that's absolutely a factor, but just to prove it, I know that I'm putting my money where my mouth is, but now I especially am, because this is a factory fresh, as yet unused Babish chef's knife, which means that it's freaking razor sharp, which means I need to be especially careful with my knife discipline today. But I want to see if I start to cry or not. I think I have a set of onion goggles in the other room, which will make me look a bit of a fool, but not as much as me just like straight up weeping on camera. So let's see what happens. First, I'm going to unload all the onions. I'm going to try to work in sort of stages with these onions because I tend to get ahead of myself and get out of order. So I'm going to start by basically getting the onions peeled and halved. Then I'm going to clean up the station, and then I'm going to start slicing. So one thing at a time. Whew, God, that's sharp. I'm not just trying to sell you knives. I mean, sure I am, but glides through that freaking onion. So easiest way to peel an onion, cut off the tip, cut it in half, and then just peel off the outermost layer. Often the outermost, even the thicker layer, is a bit tough and dried out and might even have some of that sort of copper color to it. So I just peel off the whole thing, and boom, you got yourself a peeled onion half. And I'm gonna set up these in a pile over here so that I do not get onion skins all over them. That's one of my big pet peeves when I'm chopping onions, is finding little scraps of onion skin stuck, because those end up sort of crisping up and burning in the final product. Terrifyingly sharp. Obviously, as you've probably heard all of your foodie friends say, a sharp knife is a safe knife, and that is true. But it's also a little scary. Trying to think of a comparable thing where like the safest version of it is also the scariest version. Leave a comment below if you can think of a parallel situation in life where the scariest something can be is also the safest that it can be. Again, if you're new here, another big element of this show is that I like to hush up a little bit, focus on all the wonderful food sounds and just the act of cooking itself. You know, I really should be slicing off the roots here. So these roots right here, these, you know, they're covered in skin and they're covered in these little flimsy guys that if, you know, your onion even comes near it, it's going to stick to it and it's going to end up in your final product. So while we're doing the dirty work right now, I'm just going to chop those off just so they don't get stuck everywhere. And my eyes are starting to tear up. I've heard all different kinds of tricks. Never met one that worked, except a fan. If you set up a fan that blows between your eyes and the onions, it's blowing all those fumes away. They won't hit your eyes. You won't cry. That being said, I'm crying very little, and I've already, you know, let's see what happens here. This is what I was talking about. This is why I peel off the outermost layer of an onion. This looks like it's a salvageable layer when you're looking down here, but that's no good. That's going to be tough. I hope that you guys have been enjoying this series as much as I've been enjoying making it. I am what's known as a, I believe the term is ambivert, in that I am occasionally introverted and occasionally extroverted. And the majority of the shows on this channel take a tremendous amount of extroverted energy. I need to, you know, be around a lot of people I love and respect and I'm so grateful that I get to work with, but still, they're human beings that aren't me. So if you're an introvert, you know what I'm talking about. Oh, I forgot to slice off the root because I'm talking about mental health stuff. But yeah, I'm an ambivert, which means that, you know, I can put out extroverted energy, but then usually, at least in my case, it feels like there's a reservoir of it and it runs out. And when it runs out, I'm cached, I'm done. And this show gives me an opportunity to cook for and with you guys in a way that I would if I were just by myself. It's kind of, I mean, I wouldn't be talking out loud this much, I hope. I certainly do, but hopefully not this much. So yeah, I'm very grateful to have found a format that allows me to just be myself, not be performative, you know? I'm trying to be a little entertaining, but I get to be as performative as I would be if I were cooking for my best friend. I don't feel like I don't have to worry about being too entertaining or too extroverted. So Thank you very much for watching and supporting, because for so many reasons it means a whole lot to me. And it means a lot to the crew, because this show is easier to produce and edit, which means that there's less stress on the BCU crew, which means they're more free to be creative in all the ways that they want to be, and so am I. So those are just some of the reasons we're all very, very grateful for your support. All right, moving the onions back over here now that I have a nice clean workstation. And I'm going to dump this out because I'm going to use this to hold all the, oh, I need a bigger bowl than that. So it sounds like some manner of horrible thing just happened outside. I hope whomever that is okay. Also, I'm moving things back over here because I can't put this here because, as you can see, it casts a shadow. I need to work my right to my left. Okay. Let's be a little more efficient. Okay, there we go. We're back where we started. Now, I'm going to remove the basal stem, this guy right here, which this is just a little tough, and it also can prevent the onion layers from separating. Like I don't want there to be a strand of a whole bunch of layers, you know, kind of stuck together like that. I hope that illustrated literally anything. I'm basically holding the onion with a claw like this. This is keeping my fingers more out of harm's way. And I'm kind of going in at an angle. And once you get up here, you can just go down straight across. And then once you get over here and it's starting to get, you know, a little tall, a little unwieldy, boop, turn it on its side. Same deal. And there you go. Oh, missed that guy. How are we doing for time? 4 minutes. Okay, I've been talking too much. Let's cook for a little bit. Yeah, I found myself getting a little overwhelmed last week because I think it was partly because of the music, but also just because there's a lot of moving parts here. Literally, there are physically moving parts. There's the camera that's following me right now. And keeping track of all that, making sure everything's rolling, making sure the mics are hot, on top of making those steak sandwiches. I think the biggest pressure was that I only had one steak. I didn't have a backup steak. Could always run out and get another one, but that defeats the whole, you know, real-time cooking thing. So when it got to be go time, I got a little nervous. And hopefully we're not going to have that same issue in this episode, because I kind of get a couple shots, you know. I got plenty of toast, I got plenty of soup. There's not, you know, a moment that could completely invalidate everything I've shot in this episode, so I feel a little better about it. But we're going to be able to do more complicated one-off dishes. I think I just need to build my... Where the hell did this come from? In what part of the onion did you reside? Wow, there's this weird core in this onion that totally defied me in my own dojo. Oh. Anyway, we're going to be able to do more complex dishes in the future. But, you know, on top of that, I want to keep this show accessible. This is meant to be something that you relaxedly cook along with, so we'll save the crazy, wild, and impossible stuff for, you know, binging and for Babish beats and stuff like that. For this, I'd love to just kind of go over the basics. Not unlike basics with Babish, but obviously different. I'm not practicing very good finger discipline. I apologize for being a poor influence. Cooking is an excellent mindfulness experiment because for the longest time I couldn't do it without some kind of music on or some TV on, some kind of distraction. And there's nothing wrong with cooking with music on, not at all. But there lies an interesting challenge in focusing entirely on the food. You know, like I'm not doing right now because I'm talking to you, but when I go quiet on this next onion, you're gonna know that I'm just trying to focus on the action at hand and doing things, if not properly, mindfully and almost poetically, just in time. And check on our bone marrow. Ooh, yeah, it's looking pretty good. I might give it a couple more minutes. It looks a little puffy, but I think it could be better rendered. So, Rover's got me. All right, back to that whole mindfulness thing I was talking about. A lot of people were, no, remember? Well, what I was going to say was a lot of people were calling this, you know, the medicine for 2025, and that is definitely one of my intentions. I know that this is an extremely difficult time for a lot of people, and I'm very proud to have a place, a channel where anybody can just join in, be soft for a little while, you know? Gotta be hard out here all the time. So come here and be soft with me. I'm only half joking. Can't be hard all the time. Or you're supposed to go to the doctor any more than 4 hours. So it's kind of like how Sawyer and I, when we hang out, we call it losing. Because you can't just be winning all the time. I don't care what Andrew Tate tells you or whatever. Just, yeah, other... I have so many choice words that I don't want to use because I want to keep this family friendly. People like Andrew Tate have to say that, like, you need to do X or you're a loser. You might be a loser by their metric, but I wouldn't want to be judged by their metric. I'd have to become a real loser. Anyway. No more social commentary. Okay, I am pretty tear-free. I'm pretty Johnson & Johnson No More Tears baby shampoo over here with no tears. So, Maddie, as is the case with virtually everything, I doff my cap to you, and bravo, I'm being utterly correct. We have 1 minute left on our marrow, so we have our onions sliced, ready to go. I'm gonna set these aside. We'll take care of our bone marrow, and then I think we'll make our toasts. So we might as well preemptively slice up our baguette. I have a lovely ore washer baguette. It's a nice bakery in New York. I don't know, it's just the baguette that they sell at my nearby grocery store. And I'm going to use the same knife as I illustrated in last week's episode. Bread knife's definitely a very useful tool, and a straight edge knife like this is going to give you much cleaner, flatter cuts. And I like that. It's a nice look. And if you're frying bread, it's more surface area that makes contact with the pan. Okay, those are looking good. Let's grab these out real quick. Glove. Just to show you what's going on, I'll show you the news. There are our beautiful marrow bones. There's plenty of fat bubbling in the bottom, just like I was hoping. I'm gonna let these cool a little bit, and then I'm gonna scoop them out and get ready to utilize them a little later. Oh, beat you to it. Okay. Now we have our baguette. Now, an interesting question is exactly how well these are going to fit in my soup crock. This is my one remaining French onion soup crock. I had like 6 of them, and they're all gone. And they're something stuck in there, so I'm going to go ahead and wash that. Okay. So, pretty thick toasts. Nothing too crazy. That's probably right where I want to live. 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters. And oh, look at that. Ah, that's perfect. Look at that. They perfectly fill the top of my crock. Not this more shallow bit here. This bit right here is getting a little shallower, and then it puffs back up over here. So I'll grab one more slice right here. And then this guy, we can, I'm gonna dry out all of this and then make breadcrumbs out of what I don't use today because I'm just cooking for myself right now. So, unless you're serving a ton of people, you're probably not gonna use the whole baguette. So feel free to just focus on the wider bits that fit your soup bowl a little better. One issue that you can have there is that sometimes they're wide because of a big old air bubble, which isn't the end of the world, but it is something that your cheese falls through into the soup. It's much better to have an uninterrupted layer of bread like that that will act as a raft for the soup for the cheese. Cheese, not soup. All right, that's looking good. See, like this guy's useless. All the cheese is just gonna fall right through. We'll do a really coarse shred on the cheese to make sure that, to minimize that. How many do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, that seems like a really nice number. All right, so I'm gonna set these guys aside for further future bread crumbage. Get in there, get out of my sight. And now what I'm gonna do with these guys is, I know that I said that these fit perfectly in the soup bowl, but then as the diner, as the eater, you're forced to eat this piece of bread in the hottest soup on planet Earth, magma-like soup. And you have to basically like try to cut it in half. It's not crisp, but it's mushy, but the crusts generally stay a little tough, so it's pretty hard to do. You end up with a big drippy spoonful. I'm gonna try something a little different. I'm only gonna do it with half because I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'm gonna cut these in half. I don't know, and I'm gonna do it with really, nobody with holes like that, because that could screw me up. I'm just gonna do it with a couple of them. Maybe enough for 2 cracks, I guess. That seems like a good idea. Wait, yeah, that's 2 bowls of soup right there. The rest I'll do just normal toast style, but I wanna see if I can pre-cut these in 4 pieces so that they become bite size. Now, to toast these, you could fry them, you could grill them if you want some nice extra grilly flavor, but I think I'm going to just roast them. Toast them. I got the oven preheated. That's the word I'm looking for. Rover, stay with me. You got me, you got me, you got me. That's my boy. All right, now I'm gonna do this on a rack. I'm doing it on a rack so that both sides are toasted. I'm gonna turn this on convection. That's gonna circulate air around the oven and around the toasts, making sure that both sides get evenly toasted. Just making my life a little easier. First we need the bone marrow. and its requisite fat. So they're still gonna be pretty hot, so I'm gonna glove up. I don't have chef hands like so many of my YouTube contemporaries. And carry this tray, that's a pretty good start. Okay. Gloves, 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 gloves. Okay. There we go. Yeah, all that, whoa. Okay, I don't want to lose all that fat. I gotta be careful. Stop sticking, there we go. Beautiful, oh God, that smells good. It smells like biscuits made with bone marrow. Or, you know, sometimes you make biscuits with lard. It's an animal fat situation. All right, there we go. And I'm gonna hang on to these guys. I'm gonna hang on to them separately because I wanna harvest this fat out of here. There we go. Oh man, that is a lot of, this one's being a little harder to access here. Oh, he was just cut very shallow, I guess. There we go. And very important step. No juices left, or not juices, fat, just straight up fat. And this stuff is delicious. You're gonna wanna use it for anywhere you wanna inject just a ton of beefy flavor. There we go. I'm gonna hang on to these bones to make bone broth, but that's a whole other setup. Now, next thing I'm gonna do is separate the marrow from the liquid fat because I wanna use the liquid fat to toast the toasts. There we go. And I got this lovely marrow. I could maybe like whip that up maybe with some herbs or something, and I could spread that on the toast before I put it in the soup, but I'm not sure what to do with that yet, so I'll just put it somewhere else over here. I do know that I want to use this, so. All right, let's grab our tray. And for a little bit, I mean, no, I'm not gonna go crazy. Oh, Rover, stay with me, bro. Oh, you got me, dude, you got me. You get me. Okay. This rack going in here. Now, I'm just gonna paint these down. You know, you could just drizzle it, obviously. I feel like that's what most television chefs do. But I really want, I want prolific amounts of this fat, and I want super even coverage so we get even browning. And if you ever drizzle bread with olive oil or whatever and try to toast it, sometimes, you know, some of it comes out totally pale because it didn't get any fat loving, and I don't want that to be the case today. Now, I should point out, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing today is 100% optional. You can skip the marrow stage 100%. There is no need to do this if you don't want to do it. You could just use butter or olive oil to toast the bread. Really, all you need is onions, beef broth, bread, and cheese if you want to make a bare bones French onion soup. And it's still going to be quite good. Like, I've met very few French onion soups that I didn't like, except for one that I made many, many years ago. And I think it's because I over fancified it. I can't remember exactly what went wrong with it, but then we went to my ex's friend's house a couple of weeks later and had French onion soup, and it was perfect. And I was like, what did you do? And they were like, oh, we used College Inn, you know, canned beef broth. And I was like, I'm a fraud. And sometimes, you know, very, very simple things taste the best. And I think that everything I'm doing here today is gonna just sort of add little elements, little background conversations to the party of voices. Anywho, Maybe let's hit this with a little bit of salt. It's always good to layer seasoning. If you have seasoning, mostly salt, layered throughout, then every bite is going to be seasoned as intended, instead of having some elements that need to mix with others in order for you to taste them. This bread is impregnated with beef fat, with marrow fat, some of the best fat in the world, and I want you to be able to taste it. So, lightly salted. Now, throwing these guys in, convection 400. I'm gonna turn that on because I want to keep an eye on them. This is the kind of thing that I tend to walk away from, forget about, and only remember when I smell it burning. So I'm gonna start at 4 minutes. That's probably a decent amount of time. It's really hard to time toasting any kind of bread in an oven. So many different factors. Some of those slices were thinner than others, depending on what kind of bread you're using and the size of your oven, and if it's in a hot spot. Like, there's so many things that could go differently. So I'm not going to give a time on that. I'm just doing that so I don't walk away and forget. Let's shred the cheese. That's a good idea, list. That's a good idea, list. Oh no. Let's see what we can do here. So I got this Gruyere for the last episode, for the steak sandwich episode, and I opened it up to consider using it, and I was like, I'm not going to use it. And I closed it up, and it must have stuck like that, and then over the weekend it must have bloomed like a flower. And now you can see this whole segment of it right here, I don't know if you can see that on this camera, is hardened and kind of totally dried out. Now, if you flip it over, perfectly soft and ready to go. Pretty much just need to trim off the dry stuff, and we'll be in good shape. So this is still very usable. I got this little piece of Comte here. I'd rather not have to use it because it's not nearly as flavorful as the Gruyere. So I'm just going to shave until I hit pay dirt. It looks like only the very outer layer. Yeah, I'm already into the nice soft cheese there. This edge in particular caught it. And I got some down here. A little more right there. All right, and we're back in soft cheese territory. Most of this is still pretty good. But just a tip, if you ever, accidentally let the cheese dry out, not a huge deal. If it's just dried out on the outside, there's still very salvageable cheese inside. I'm gonna do a coarse grate with this cheese because this cheese really wants to sink to the bottom of the soup, and we don't want that. So if we have nice long strands, you can see I'm grating the entire length of this piece of cheese. That means that I'm going to have strands, most of which are as long, let me show you, as the piece of cheese. Did you see? Same length. Since we have nice long strands, we're going to have an easier time getting them propped up on top of the bread. Oh yeah, all right. See, I'm glad I don't fofo, to quote High Maintenance, one of my favorite shows. Don't freak out till you find out. Don't fofo. All right, we got our cheese. Let's get an appropriate bowl for that. That bread smells hot, but it's not just yet. I think some of the fat dripped down and is not burning, but sizzling pretty hard in the bottom of that pan. Go. But the bread is sizzling nicely. It should be done. I just set another timer for 2 minutes. Should be done very shortly. There's our cheese. Snack cheese for the chef. Okay. I'm gonna wait until these toasts are out of the oven before I start caramelizing the onions, because that is a hands-on, eyes-on process. Not something I want to be walking away from too often. Again, I'm trying out a new technique here that I believe, where did I see this one? I think it was Cook's Illustrated. There's a lot of tips and tricks for quickly caramelizing onions, and this seems more like a foolproofing of that process rather than expediting of that process. It seems like it might speed things up a little bit, but it's more about making sure that the onions get nicely caramelized evenly and without too much hassle, because as you can see, we have a metric F ton of onions here. And we are, I got a big old 12-inch saute pan here, but it's still, it's gonna be close quarters. So any help I can get is appreciated. Let's check on the rules. Almost. I think the second timer, no. I was about to say, I think the second timer I set was perfect, and then it went off. So I'm gonna put this guy away because it doesn't seem like I need him. I mean, I need you, don't worry. I'll need you another time, don't I? All right, so I'm gonna have to eat one of those toasts too. I'm glad I did extra because I'm gonna have to eat one here right now because that's gonna be good. This fat is already re-solidified a little bit. You can see that. It's whatever, like if I don't end up using that, what I'm gonna do is cook it. I'm gonna put it in a non-stick pan probably and just heat it, just fry it basically over medium, low heat, depending on where it's at, until all the solids have kind of shrunk up and shriveled into this dark matter. Any science fiction book fans out there? It's gonna render out, just like the same way you'd render out fat from bacon or fatback or any kind of fat, beef tallow. It renders out the fat and then you can strain it and save it. And it's gonna come in all kinds of handy. Same way we're using it today. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, I have an iron mouth, but I am gonna let that heat or cool for a couple minutes before I try to hork one down. That can be done well in advance. Next up, caramelize the onions. This is, even with the speed up trick, this is going to be a lengthy process. I don't even think I'm gonna do the speed up trick. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it the way I like to do it. Their speed up trick was to put a whole bunch of water in the bottom, something like half a cup of water for roughly this amount of onions, and then covering it. I'm gonna do an iteration of that. I'm gonna do a version of that. I'm gonna do it Babish style. I don't know what Babish style is. It's just the way I do things. Okay. I want not all of that. Gotta start keeping butter knives over here. It feels silly to like swipe a couple tablespoons of butter out of a bowl with a chef's knife. It's not a good look. Okay, there we go. Got some nice unsalted butter, non-stick pan. This is the way I like to caramelize onions because the browning ends up sticking to the onions or remaining on the onions instead of ending up on the bottom of the pot. It does still stick to the bottom of the pot. There's still, you're gonna see some like, what is that? Some sort of goo forming on the bottom. And that's why we have this, which is water. With ATK or Cook's Illustrated, whoever, they were saying to throw the onions in here and follow it with a ton of water. And I don't think I want to do that. I like the idea of putting some in there and covering it, letting the onions steam, because that breaks them down more quickly. It shrinks them. It's sort of like spinach. You need it to wilt down. You need it to shrink. We're going to end up with probably a fifth or less of the onions that we started with because they're going to be so cooked down. A lot of butter, but there's a lot of onions. So, Babish style. And I'm just heating this pretty gently, medium heat. I just want to get it melted, get it foaming. Add the onions. We don't need a big sizzle because you brown too fast, you're not letting sugars naturally develop. You want barely any sizzle. If it starts sizzling, turn down the heat and or splash some water. The water helps scrape up. It's almost like a mini deglazing. It helps scrape up the fond on the bottom of the pot. Oh, I think my eyes were bigger than my saute pan here. Maybe I am going to do that trick, because these onions had weird cores. I sliced them with technical perfection, but they've betrayed me with their unnatural being. So normally with French onion soup, you want to do this in the pot that you're going to make the soup in, because then you can deglaze all that stuff, but that's okay. We're going to deglaze, scrape everything out. We won't miss any of that flavor. So I'm going to hit it with a fair amount of water. This is going to prevent the butter from burning. It's going to prevent things from browning too much. That might have been a half cup of water. I'm just doing the ATK thing, Babish style. Cover it up, reduce the heat to medium-low. Again, don't want things browning. Water is going to safeguard against that to some degree. And let it go for, I think, probably about 5 minutes. We're going to see these shrink. All the onions are going to become less rigid, and in doing so, they're going to start fitting in together a little bit better. So, yeah. While that's going, what else can we do? We can talk about beef stock and or bone broth, and not a specific amount here. I think that's 6 cups. So far, we've been doing recipes where we can just be visual, and we can taste, and we can try as we go. Also, I clearly don't have a very good sense of time passing when we're hanging out, which means we're having fun, right? Set a timer for 4 minutes. Just keep an eye on things. Wow, we've already been hanging out for an hour. This is why I love this show. Like, I'm having so much fun right now because I just get to hang out with you guys, talk about what's going on. Let's get into the vlog stuff, shall we, while we're waiting for this? What's going on in the world of Babish? I went and saw the Book of Mormon day before yesterday. Still holds up. And it was after that that I had the French onion soup. I was freezing because it was very, very cold, and walking away from Times Square as fast as I possibly could, and came across, I used to live in Hell's Kitchen, and came across an old brasserie I used to go to called Marseille. Really nice, like warm, friendly, comfortable, serviceable brasserie. It's not like the best French food in the city, but it's like cold day, walking by, used to go there all the time when I lived in Hell's Kitchen. Yeah, it was just so bone warming, and it just made me crave it so hard, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So it's been a long time since I've made French onion soup. I think we did a basics, like, that was back in Soho, so that would have been going on 5+ years ago now, maybe 6. So about time we revisit, especially if this is an earlier foray into cooking for you. This is a great option because so much can be done ahead of time, especially if like you're throwing your first dinner party or something like that. You can make the soup fully ahead of time, just heat it up day of. You can make the toasts fully ahead of time. Like I said, the more they dry out, the better. And if you do a whole baguette, you know, slice it up. First off, you could do crostini, maybe a different appetizer or something, but whatever's left over, let it dry completely, grind it up in a food processor, homemade baguette breadcrumbs. How impressed are your friends going to be if you're going to be like, this is fish coated in baguette breadcrumbs? Like, ooh, I just got to chill. So yeah, you can prepare it up to the point of assembly, where basically you just heat up the soup, fill up the crock, top it with your toasts and cheese, broil it, it's done. So really great for if you're just getting started in this game, because very forgiving, a lot can be done ahead of time, and a lot of room for exploration. Like I was saying, you can do as little as onions, beef broth, cheese, baguette, or toasts of some kind. You'll have a much less complex, but still wonderful, comforting, heartwarming kind of deal. Okay, here we go. Well, it hasn't reduced much by way of volume yet. I'm gonna lift it up and peek and make sure it's not browning like crazy. Rover's got me, yeah. Let's take a peek here. Still so much water. And the top onions are not really breaking down at all. So I'm gonna give things a little mix. Probably don't need to do this, could probably just be patient. So I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna be patient. Maybe crank up the heat a little bit. That might be the issue. I might be going a little too gentle on the heat. There we go. No more timers. Just gonna go visual on that. I would also love to know what you guys want to see on future episodes. I'm shooting 3 over the course of 4 days, which has been, this is number 2. This is so much fun, and I'm going to shoot another one tomorrow. I have no idea what yet. That's another fun thing. I might just go to the grocery store and see what looks good and come back and here and make it here with you. Like, or think of, you know, what did I make that was really good for dinner a couple weeks ago? I can make that. I don't have to, I'm not boxed in the same way that I might be with other shows. So again, another reason I really appreciate that. I don't normally put red wine in my French onion soup. I usually do sherry or brandy or both. Typically don't do red wine because I'm nervous that it's going to make it look purpley. That was actually an issue that I had with the French onion soup I had over the weekend. And this is not an issue. This was just something that I'm trying to avoid, which was that the onions were purple. And I think that was either because they were red onions initially, or because they might have used too purple a wine, like a Burgundy or something. And I have this really nice Cabernet Sauvignon that I, for some reason, didn't get finished over the weekend. Pretty rare that a nice bottle gets opened and doesn't empty out pretty fast. Okay, let's head back over the onions real quick. All right, I think we're starting to make progress here. Let's check. Still plenty of water down there. No browning occurring. That's what I want. Cover things back up. Maybe we're being a little too slow and steady here. Maybe we need to be a little bit more excitable. So things I'm going to bolster flavor with. I have this little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon, and I don't need all of it. So you might guess what that means. Rover. Okay, Rover's got me. Oh, yeah. It is currently, holy hell. I mean, I know it's been an hour and 15 minutes, but it's been an hour and 15 minutes. It's 6:30. So I'm going to make sure that this isn't poison. That's all I need. I'm just putting a splash. Again, I really don't want to darken it too much, color it too much. This is a very purpley wine too. If you look at that, it is, here, you can see it's a pretty purpley wine. This could introduce a funky color to the situation. I'm actually not even sure if I want to add it. Is that just because I want to drink it? Little column A, little column B. But here, I'll keep some in here just in case. I might filter it just in case there's sediment in there. I have no idea what the situation is on the inside. Shaking these onions around a little bit. You can see they are shrinking down. Oh, I'm catching some browning over here. Caught it nice and early, so not a problem. And we're pretty much just going to keep these boys moving for the duration. As they reduce and continue to reduce in size, we're going to be able to better see where there's browning that is sticking to the bottom of the pan. But for now, we can just keep them moving. Obviously, a lot of people shortcut caramelized onions with just by adding sugar. There's nothing wrong with that. I do think you're not getting nearly as complex a flavor because, again, you're adding sugar. You're adding sugar, so you're creating the ability to brown or to caramelize rather. You're adding sugars that can then caramelize, but you're not caramelizing the sugars in the onions. So not the harshness, but the originality of the onion is still there. And they just aren't as sweet and jammy and complex as they would be if you did the hard one thing, which is this, slow and low. I didn't drop an onion. Did you see that? I know how to flip in the pan, but not that well. So usually one thing goes flying or a bunch of liquid splashes out and hits me in the face, but not that time. That was pretty cool. All right, folks. Well, a lot of beautiful food sounds to be had here as these onions caramelize. So I'm going to focus on keeping these moving and getting nice, deep, profound flavor development. Well, I can also think of a few better times than to, I'm saying this with some wine in my hand, whatever, than to try some little mindfulness exercises. Feel free to join me. I won't make this long or belabored, but I want to try and share the kind of things that I do when I'm cooking on my own and have the ability and the bandwidth and the space to do this. So might as well try doing it together. And that is to basically stop and take stock of where it is that you are right now. You might be in your kitchen. You might be in your bedroom. You might be at work when you're supposed to be working, in which case I'd say, look behind you, your boss is coming. I'm kidding. And try to widen your field of vision. I know that sounds kind of odd, but what I mean is try to see as much that's in front of you as you can, not focusing on any one thing, but trying to take in the whole picture as one thing. Because when you focus, like I'm about to do with the onions, I'm focusing on the onions now. Nothing else really exists except what's in my periphery. I'm not paying any attention to it. I'm only looking at this. That's what you have to do when you're doing flippies like that, to make sure that they don't fly everywhere and spatter and whatever. But then when you take a step back and take some slower, deeper breaths and just take in the scene. It doesn't have to be beautiful or complex. It can be anything. It could be, again, if you're in bed, just look down at your toes and take in everything that you can see in your entire field of vision. And you don't have to do anything special with it. You can just look at it. And when I do that, I feel this radiating calm happening in my body that normally I have to focus very hard to try and cultivate, but it comes so much more naturally when we take a moment to observe. It's because I think when we broaden our points of focus and aren't so fixated on one thing, be it this show, watching me, or thoughts that you might be having, or the small kitchen fire that's taking place You don't need to focus on that. I'm kidding. If you have a fire, take care of it. But I'll learn how to do this without joking one day. But today's not that day. So I think it's because I'm scared that, you know, if I put myself out there with this, if I share these kinds of techniques, that people are going to think that I'm a new agey loon or whatever. But I have to remember that, I mean, mindfulness is more popular now than it really has ever been. So it's not like these are very foreign ideas, or and also that I want to be my most authentic self, and my most authentic self likes these exercises because they ground me and they put me exactly where I am. And if my mind is elsewhere entirely, it can help bring me back a little bit. And I'm very grateful that my mind isn't really elsewhere right now. It's here. There's just enough to occupy it and focus it, which is mindful, to be sure. It's not the same as, you know, straight up meditation. There we go. But it's a great moment-to-moment exercise that you can really do anywhere, anytime. Another great exercise is setting a stopwatch and taking very slow, very full breaths, as slow as you can, and seeing how many you take naturally in a minute. For me, it's usually 4 or 5, sometimes 3 if I'm really, really zenned out. And then, if once you've timed that, then you know how many breaths you should take if you want to take a mindful minute. If you want to take 1 minute to pull yourself out of whatever rabbit hole you might be in mentally or physically or emotionally, you now know that you need to take 5 breaths, if that's the case, to be mindful for 1 minute and just focus on those breaths. It all started back in high school. Sawyer and I and Rashid and a bunch of our friends, those are the 2 that you might know if you've watched enough of this channel. Our high school was a very special place called the Harley School in upstate New York. And there they had a very special person named Bob Kane taught a hospice class, and which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a year-long course, first half of which is spent studying death and dying from a number of respects. What is hospice care? What is palliative care? What does death mean in different cultures and different religions, and how do different peoples view death? There are some people that celebrate and accept it as part of life. There are some people that deny it altogether. Americans, Westerners in general. Sorry. And so the first half of the course was learning about what is death and dying. What exactly is it? What do we know about it? How can we interpret it? And then the second half of the class was actually going to hospices and volunteering and watching after people who were in the last days or weeks of their lives. I'm not trying to virtue signal right now. I'm not saying, like, look how awesome I am for doing this. I had my own reasons for doing this. I had never really faced my mom's death properly until that point. And this was a process that really helped me mourn and stop running away from the fact that had happened. And this is why I gave the editors the option to bounce out, because this is getting heavy, but whatever. Again, the West, we're too scared to death. So let's talk about it. the first time I ever meditated was was the day that one of the patients I was looking after, his name was Robert, died. He was a Vietnam vet. He had lung cancer, and we showed up to the hospice with the intention of, doing a shift, and we were turned away by the attending physician because Robert's family was there, because physician's words, he had expired, which not crazy about calling it that, but just doing his job. And it all kind of, punched us in the gut. Like, here's this guy that we had just seen a couple days ago, and he was gone. And we went back to school. This was well after, after hours. So we were like some of the only people there. And Mr. Kane, our teacher, lit a tea light in front of each of us and put on Mr. Tambourine Man by Bob Dylan, and asked us to just try to clear our minds and just listen to music and look at the candle and contemplate the candle. Don't think about the candle, just observe the candle, see what feelings come up, see what thoughts come up, but don't think about it deliberately. He didn't give all these instructions. I can't remember exactly how he put it, but it was something like that. And it was to help make us present, because we all, obviously minds went straight to all fears about death, and anger at this doctor for saying he expired, and anger at his family for not letting us see him, and just all these emotions and thoughts and things that were clouding us from being there in the moment and actually experiencing what this loss meant, what this person dying meant to us. And I didn't even know that it was a meditation until after, when he told us. That was my introduction to it. And then after that, he started doing optional during lunch, little 5-10 minute things where he'd ask us to count our breaths, counting as high as we could, and as soon as we lost count, starting over. That's a great, simple, I think it's a Zen Buddhist meditation, actually, which is just counting your breaths, and as soon as you realize you've lost count, start over. Simple as that. It's almost like a mantra. And if you are curious about it, about what it's like to meditate, and if it could be helpful for you, that's a great way to do it. You could take 5 minutes and just count your breaths. Don't worry, I'm not going to do it right now. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but maybe if I shut up for 5 minutes, you could do it if you want it. Or you can stick with me, stirring the onions and hanging out. But why don't we set a timer for 5 minutes? That seems like a good idea. I'm going to turn it all the way down so that it doesn't startle you or anything. But if you want to give it a shot, go for it. If not, I'll see you right now. And that's 5 minutes. I don't know if you were counting your breaths or just hanging out. Either way, if you couldn't see me, I was looking around the room thinking about how grateful I am that this is my job and that I get to do all these things. So thank you. Thank you for watching, and if you tried that out, thank you for doing that with me. Let me know if you want to ever try that again in future episodes. I can do guided stuff. I could do anything. And back to cooking. You'll see over here that I've spread the onions out over the pan, and I am pushing them up the sides, the walls of the pan. This is doing two things. First, it's increasing the amount of surface area that's in contact with the pan, and it's lessening the density of the onions so that there isn't as much steam building up, so that it should brown a little more readily. I'm willing to bet that this is going to have some nice color when I flip it over. Let's take a look. Yep, check that out. Browning a little too fast, but as long as we don't go too dark, we're in good shape. Oh, bunch of stuff. Now you can see that stuck in the bottom of the pot. Oh, it's all over the place. See all this gunk and everything stuck on the bottom of the pot? Bring it into focus here. All this crap. It's not crap at all. It's delicious, wonderful flavor. And it needs to be harvested by adding some water to the pan and then using the onions in your spatula to scrape it up and mix it into the fry. So now, almost as if on cue, Rover's battery is about to die. He's at 9%. And this camera, this guy, the beauty shot for the stove, is overheating. So I am going to stop these cameras. I'm going to do a battery swap. I'm going to let this one cool down. And we'll see you when my and your onions are caramelized. All right, folks. Had to do a battery swap, had to cool off a camera. Here's the things that have happened in the 15 or so minutes that you've been asleep, or that will, you know what I'm trying to say. I've continued to caramelize the onions. They are looking to be in a state of complete, utter, and perfect doneness. Beautiful. I have opened the window, decreasing the temperature in the studio by about 5 degrees. And I decided not to use any more wine in the recipe. Like, you know, it's got enough going on. What does it need wine for? So, you fill in the blanks. All right, our onions are beautiful and looking ready to depart this vessel. So, let me give them one last squirt of water around the outside where there's a bunch of fond hanging out. Scrape everybody up. Again, use the onions as a almost like a mop, a delicious mop. Get all that stuff up there. Look at that. Look at those onions. Those are caramelized. There's no black spots. Maybe there's one or two little spots where I let them get a little hot, but for the most part, these are sweet and soft and jammy and very ready to become soup. So let's switch vessels because this is not a suitable vessel for building soup. I'm going to add a little more fat to the pot. Maybe just, you know, a tablespoon of butter just to prevent things from sticking, and because it seems like these onions have completely drank up that butter, which is a good thing, but we're not building a roux, but we need to thicken this soup. So I've got 1 tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of butter heating up in this pot. And we're gonna use this to start building the soup. So, butter's melted and foaming. Let's get these beautiful caramelized onions in there. And we're gonna further cook them just a little bit. I just added water, so we wanna cook that water out of there. And I wouldn't mind building up some fond on the bottom of the pot because just more flavor we're going to be able to scrape up. So in it goes. That's scraped pretty much clean. So let's get these guys moving. We'll cook off that excess water, and then I also want the fat in there because we need to thicken this up. We're not building a roux, but we're going to add some flour, and we need some fat to coat that flour so that it gets incorporated. I'm also, I don't know if I need to or even should be doing this, but I've been chopping these guys up a little bit. Just trying to not have them be such long strands. Like it's a little annoying when you're eating French onion soup and there's these long strands hanging off the bottom. It's already crazy, dangerously hot. So to then have to deal with that is another added layer of complication. So I'm gonna keep cooking that until we start forming some fond in the bottom of the pot, and then I'm gonna introduce all the other flavors. Rover, stay with me. You stay right there, you got this. Oh, I'm just gonna grab this whole tray of these, praying to God that I don't topple right now. I feel like I'm going to because that's very tall, and so is that. Okay, let's just move this over here. There we go. Perfect. We'll just keep this here while we're building our soup. And then when it comes time to disassemble, we'll get rid of it. So, already getting some fond on the bottom of the pot. I'm sorry you can't see it, but trust me, it's there. It's just a more serious version of what we were getting in the nonstick. I got some that's turning a little dark here, so I'm gonna try to cover it with onions. That way it steams and it doesn't burn. And we're starting to get things to stick. Now, I'm probably gonna add, this is probably 6 cups of stock. General rule for thickening milk for a bechamel is 1 tablespoon each butter and flour per cup of liquid. So we want to go well shy of that because we're not trying to make this thick. We're just trying to give it some body. So I'm probably going to add, let's say, that's about 2 tablespoons. Mix that up, and it's going to form a paste. Beautiful. That paste is also going to start sticking to the bottom of the pot. And before I add the liquid, first I'm going to let that paste start to brown a little bit. Beautiful. We're just letting that flour cook just a little bit. Don't want anything to turn dark or black or anything like that. Just keep it nice and golden brown. And I'm going to add a little bit of tomato paste. This is totally optional, but this is one of the things that I feel like makes demi-glace so freaking good. Is just a little bit of tomato paste. Talking like, it's probably not even a tablespoon, maybe like a 2 teaspoons, if that. Mix that in, get that incorporated into the onions and flour. Also, give it a little bit of heat. I'm going to tilt this sideways so you can see the awesome fond forming on the bottom of the pot here. It's really epic. Can you see that? Yeah, look at that fond. Look at that fond. Nice dark brown. It's just onions and flour and tomato paste and all the good things of this world. We're about to get it moist. But just before I go any further, I just want to make sure I'm not missing some fun, cool step. Nope. So we'll start by deglazing with a little bit of the brandy because, again, who needs wine? That's a little too much, right? That's crazy. Just like, that was probably 2-3 tablespoons, not quite a 1/4 cup of brandy. And it's not enough to get the stuff off the bottom of the pot. So we're going to increase the heat a little bit. Again, don't want things to burn. Keep a close eye. But we need that liquid to become hot very, very quickly in order to get all that good stuff off the bottom of the pot. So it's nice and sizzly. Let's add a little splash of stock. That's a good sizzle. And let it simmer, and there it goes. There goes the fond. Here comes the fond. But also there it goes in another sense. Yeah, the liquid has to be hot in order to get the fond off the bottom of the pot. That's why I'm not adding all of it. Just adding enough so we can get all that stuff off the bottom. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Now all we have is this thick, goopy, jammy onion mixture. So now we can add the rest of our stock. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. There we go. And let's crank this, get it up to a righteous, powerful, proud simmer. I'm mixing it right now because that faux roux on the outside of the onions is going to dissolve into the stock as a whole. And that is going to, not thicken it, but it's going to give it body. And you can see what I'm talking about here. I'll show you, I'll ladle some. Here we go. Gonna need this later anyway. You can see it's not thick, it's not watery either. It's opaque. I don't know if you can see that, but making my best effort. Oh, and then this dirty pot becomes a perfect spoon rest for my ladle. Isn't that handy? So, that's done. Now we want to bolster our flavors a little bit. I'm going to add a couple boosters. Pretty much all of these are adding glutamates. I'm gonna add some fish sauce, some Worcestershire sauce, and some soy sauce. I was gonna add Marmite, but I think maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit. So the soy sauce is just gonna add some salt, umami, goodness. It's like 1 or 2 tablespoons. We're doing this pre-salting because we don't want to oversalt, and soy sauce is very salty. You do the math. Here comes some Worcestershire. That's probably 2 tablespoons worth. And just a little bit of fish sauce. Obviously don't want to make things fishy, but basically this is just, I believe, just anchovies. Yeah, fish sauce is just pretty much just anchovy, almost extract. I don't know how fish sauce is made, but it's basically just liquid anchovies. So anchovies are a huge source of glutamates and a wonderful umami booster. They're like, I always put anchovies in my red sauce, in my my tomato sauce, because it just ups the savory element. Oh man, that already looks great. This is gonna simmer for about 30 minutes, but it already looks like perfect. Let's give it a little taste just to see where it's at. Again, it's gonna be so far from done, but I like to see how flavors develop. This is where we're starting. Everything's raw, everything's fresh and just getting to know each other. Nobody's mingling yet. Nobody's thrown down just yet. Yeah, buddy. And, oh, yeah. I might have overdone the Worcestershire sauce. So maybe do a little less, maybe like 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I don't mind it. It's not bothering me at all. But it's pretty heavy on the Worcestershire sauce, so careful there. Just getting these out of the way, out of my visual field. Oh, I want a garlic element too. And I know just where to put it. All right, sorry. That was unnecessary. As you can see, if you're keeping count of my toasts, I have indeed consumed one of these toasts. And it's underwhelming in terms of bone marrow flavor. So that means I'm going to stick with my original plan of spreading them with bone marrow. But before I do that, I'm going to take a clove of garlic and just using them just like they're a cheese grater. Let me put this right in the close-up here. I'm going to just do that. Basically just grate some fresh garlic right on top. It's just puncturing a whole bunch of cell walls, releasing allicin. covering the whole thing with garlic oil, little bits of shaved garlic. Even my little guys, even my little champions, they are not exempt. And yeah, so that's going to bring a lot of wonderful garlic flavor to the party. Ideally, I'd be doing this when these were warm, just because it would almost semi-cook the garlic a little bit. But these are gonna get dropped into soup so hot it would melt your mind. So don't worry about that. All right, got a little garlic on there. I don't know if my quarter toasts or half toasts or whatever that is experiment is going to work. That's why I like having the extra there. All right, let me get this out of the way. There we go. All right, toasts are ready. I'm gonna put the bone marrow on them right before they go in the soup. And as you can see, I've taken the bone marrow that we took out of those bones and I've tiny whisked it. That's another thing that happened while you were gone. Whoa, this got bubbly really fast. That's another thing that happened while you were gone was I basically just tiny whisked this bone marrow into a smooth, spreadable paste that basically just tastes like pure beef freedom. It's the best way I can describe it. And wow, this looks awfully, it's not thick. It's just got, wow, it's got a lot of body. So I might have overdone the flour a little bit, but it's not a problem. See, it's still very, here, I'll hold it up so you can see it. It's still quite liquidy, but it's definitely, it looks thickened. It looks like it has body to it. Let's give it another. Oh, the flavors are starting to meld. So that first sip that I took, all I was getting was store-bought beef broth, which is about as boring as store-bought beef broth. So to taste the sweetness of the onions and their flavors starting to meld in there, that's killer. Oh, and of course we need the most essential French ingredient of all. Something we should have prepared a long time ago. Gotta get my herbs. There we go. If you missed the first episode of this series, I highlighted a little tip I've learned over the past year, which is to wash your herbs, pat them dry in a towel, and then roll them up in said towel, and it will keep them fresh and crisp and you know, strong and bright a little longer. So what we need, that I almost completely forgot, is a Bouquet Garni. Bouquet Garni is a mixture, oh, I almost forgot the bay leaves, hang on. Bouquet Garni is a little bouquet, if you will, of herbs. Very classically added to all them kinds of French stocks and soups and stews and all this stuff. And what we have over there is a big old stock pot of just the most incredibly unctuous and rich, beefy, oniony flavors in the world. And these herbs are going to lighten things up a little bit. They're going to bring some vegetality. They're going to bring some herbiness, you know? You know? So a Bouquet Garni is traditionally a couple sprigs of parsley, a couple sprigs of thyme, a bay leaf wrapped up in a leek leaf. So I need, these leek leaves are a little narrow, so I'm gonna use two. Yeah, I don't know how to do it. Whomp. Man, that knife is sharp. I gotta sharpen my knives more often, am I right? Am I right, people? So basically just folding these herbs up so they all fit. They don't have to completely be ensconced by the, you know, let me get all these out of the way so I'm doing this front and center. Okay. Here we go. So, and I'm gonna use these herbs and that leek and everything to make that bone broth later on. So, not too much waste. All right. So, I've got the herbs, a little bit of parsley, a little bit of thyme, and a bay leaf wrapped up in these leek leaves. And now I'm going to grab a little length of twine, butcher's twine, and just wrap them up. The whole point of doing this is because, come on, the whole point of doing this is because we don't want to have to pick out thyme sprigs, bay leaves, all this stuff. We don't want to have to fish them out of the soup. This way they're in a convenient little package. Get those really centered in there. I don't want anybody falling out, falling off. There we go. Now I'm doing a, I don't know if this is actually called a butcher's knot, but it's what I call it. Basically, you are making a square knot, which is left over right, right over left. But the first turn, you're doing a double twist, which basically when you pull it tight, holds it in place. I didn't use real terminology there, but I think you know what I meant, maybe. Tie it up. Not necessary to snip off the excess, but I'm going to do it. And there you have it. Little Bouquet Garni, ready for action. To wit, straight in the soup. Boop. That is going to bring a whole lot of very welcome flavors to this party. It's also so thick and so flavorful already, I don't want it to reduce much anymore. So I'm going to lid it. So that way the flavors can meld, it can cook without too much water boiling off and it becoming too thin. Now, of these herbs, the only ones I'm going to hang on to, because I want to finish the soup with them, is a little bit of chive. That is going to be a nice little visual garnish, and of course it's going to bring some nice fresh oniony flavors. Not that we don't have enough oniony flavors, but you know what I mean. Now when you do this herbs trick, basically you separate the herbs into different camps here, and then you, just like a knife roll them up like that, and make sure that you're rolling each one into its own separate layer. That way they're kept separate so they don't end up becoming this big, you know, bush of herbs. And the slight moisture in the towel, just a little tiny bit of moisture, and the cold just helps keep things really crisp and fresh. I did that for demonstration. I want to hang on to those chives. You're coming with me. Well, maybe I'll just grab a bunch of them. There we go. I'm gonna do it. Maybe I'm gonna roll it this way because that was being a little unwieldy. There we go. See, now it's a much more self-contained package, not go anywhere. Okay, I'm also gonna grab this Parmesan because I don't want to forget to finish off the soup with it. Let's check our checklist. So far we've added the flour tomato paste deglazed with wine. Skipped that part. Whoopsie daisy. Simmered. Okay, so that's been going for about 15 minutes now. I want it to go for 30 to really let those flavors meld. I'm gonna give it 5, 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to preheat the broiler, because as soon as the flavors feel like they've hit that sweet spot and they've melded together properly, then we're assembling and we're eating. And it's a good thing because I'm freaking starving. I had a late lunch and I'm still starving. 7:42. Okay, well, let's just make sure we have all of our players in order here. I'm gonna reset my workstation a little bit. Whenever you have the opportunity, this is a great thing to be able to do. Because if you're anything like me, in other words, if you have ADD, you grab something, you're focused on it, you do it, and then when it's done, you put it down, you're like, okay, I gotta do the next thing. And then before you know it, things just start piling up, all the things that you don't need, and it turns into a bird's nest. So that's another reason I love this show. I'm very lucky that I'm doing this series that allows for some self-correction. I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this. So all that can go over here. Oh, that marrow fat. That's what I just licked off my thumb, was the marrow fat. Put these guys in the sink. Maybe do a garbage bowl dump. This is one of the things that I was very nervous about showing in making this series, was showing the mess. A lot of people, when they see botched or when they see ranking or anything like that, they think that that's, you know, I'm putting it on for camera. And I'm putting it on personality-wise, energy-wise. But my mess, my disorganization and general scatterbrainedness is very real. I always call this the your 35 degrees of exposure to me. That doesn't sound right. I don't always call it that. What do I call it? Your 35 degrees of visibility. There it is. This camera right here. This is what you're normally seeing with binging. And, you know, I have all this stuff here, and all I have to do is boop. It's out of frame. You have no idea it's there. And as far as you can tell from this angle, it looks like I'm the most organized and clean person in the history of human existence. But in fact, I'm not. And anyway, now that I'm mic'd up, I'll taste this and tell you that that Bouquet Garni makes all the freaking difference in the world. It just, this soup is so rich and meaty and oniony that it needs something vegetal. I know onions are vegetables, but that's not what I mean. That is a special piece of soup, is what I always say. All right, that's been going now for about 25 minutes, which means we're ready to preheat the oven. Medium broil. I'm gonna broil. Screw it. I wasn't sure because, like, a lot of recipes will tell you one of two things. They'll tell you broil, you know, throw the cheese on there and broil it until it's done. Or they'll tell you to crank the oven to 500 and put it in there until it's done. And my worry would be that the cheese isn't going to melt with the broiler, it's just going to brown it, but that's not true. I'm putting it over the hottest soup on the planet. And I'm sorry to keep making that joke, but it's completely astute. It's 100% true. And these are the facts, so, yeah. All right. That bone boat, as I'm going to call it, that bone boat worked like a charm. There's not a drop of anything on this guy. So that means I can do something that I didn't do when we shot this episode, and that is line this with foil, because you're not going to keep all the cheese in the crock. It's going to fall around the outside. And what does fall around the outside is going to burn. And if it falls on your tray and burns, it's going to be hard to clean. So that's what that there. Not that you needed a reason, but there it is. Let me grab the crockery. Oh, there it is. Here's the crock. Here's the cheese. Here's secondary cheese. And here's the chives. We are ready for action. All I want now is for those flavors to be totally have gotten to know each other. I want them to be mingling. I want them to be making plans for future couples vacations and you know, I was about to say become friends on Facebook. What year is this? Oh man, you need those herbs. You need them. Don't skip those herbs. Don't do what I almost did and forget those herbs. Thank God my ADD brain, and I'm sorry to keep bringing that up, latched on to that detail, because I didn't put it in my, I'm calling it my triptych, which is just this checklist of the things that I need to do in order, because again, very hard for me to concentrate when I'm hosting a cooking show, what I'm supposed to be doing next. So, forgot to put it in there, which almost spelled disaster. I'm going to start by throwing down some cheese into the bottom of the crock. I might throw down some toasts too. Like normally I just do the toasts on top because I don't want to turn this into a freaking bread bowl, but I have these big, beautiful toasts. I'm the only one eating this tonight. Kind of feels like I should do it. It's just that if I put those in there, they're gonna float. Oh, if I put the cheese first, it'll hold them down. That's the innovation I was looking for. Okay, so I was gonna throw down these croutons, and then croutons float, but cheese sinks. So God willing, that cheese is gonna hold things down. It's a lot of cheese, and I'm gonna put a lot on top. Oh God, it's gonna be too cheesy. It's gonna be awesome. All right, let's see where we're at. I think this is like fully done, but oh man, the color of this is bananas. It's this copper amber beauty. And also, I'm glad I mashed up those onions because as I'm picking this up with a spoon, I don't have a lot of crazy long hangers or anything. I think I mashed them up to a point where they're not going to be too, I would say intrusive, but it's an exterior thing. So is that extrusive? Is extrusive a word? Oh, my heart. My heart's in my belly. That's why I love food. Sorry. Okay. Let's put the bone marrow on the top toasts only. Not because I already put those in there and I don't want to dig them out. Not for that reason. Let's grab a little spat, which I wish that I had some Babish ones because they're black, and it's going to look weird if I scoop bone marrow with this orange one, but here we are. Okay. So, let's grab our toasts and just spread some bone marrow over top. And I'm gonna just put those off to the side where they can lie in wait. Baby. Oh man, the smell of the garlic and the beef fat and just those two things. And the soup, I guess, too, probably. Everything is coming up the Babish. Oops. I marrowed the wrong side of this toast. What do I do? Oh my God, that's so good. That's so good. Why isn't bone marrow whipped and made into a condiment? This is incredible. Oh, God, that was good. I've had very few things in my life that were as tasty as that was. That one bite. And it's just an element in this soup. Okay. I think the soup's done. It's wicked hot, so that's a great start. I need a trivet. Dig out this trivet. Go. Soup is still angrily bubbling because it's so terribly, terribly hot. Which is the signal for me to ladle some in here. The Bouquet Garni is still in there. You're gonna wanna fish that out before serving, but I only just realized it now, so that's why I'm continuing to do the thing. It's okay, because I'm not gonna scoop it up by accident. All right, the cheese and stuff. Oh, it's so laden with onions. Look at how many onions are in that freaking soup. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. God, that looks good. God, have mercy on me. I am your son. Okay. Let's arrange these over top, thusly. Tuck them down a little bit, just get them flat. Beautiful. Okay, cheese. Enough cheese to completely insulate the bread, which is already perfectly toasted, and the marrow, which I don't want to burn. So, in other words, a lot. I mean, that's kind of the rule with French onion soup, is that you go kind of crazy with the cheese. Speaking of which, oh, not that one, that one. Freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, right over top. Not very French at all, but really helps with browning and spotting, which is what I want a lot of. So just a little Parmesan on top, some shreds around the crock, make it feel authentic or something. And I got my chives at the ready. I will chop those up once this guy goes in, so it's ready to go. But here is our French onion soup. Maybe the best that I've ever made. We'll see if it's the best I've ever had. That's a whole other can of bananas. Ooh, that's hot. Okay, well, that's the thing with broiling, is that I guess you can leave the oven open. I'm not gonna do that though, that seems a little insane. But I'm just gonna keep a very close eye on that because I really don't want to burn it. Oh, let's chop up the chives with our still factory fresh knife. Man, that is sharp. I'm not even saying that to, it's just, when you got a really sharp knife, for me, usually a factory fresh knife, because I'm not terribly good at keeping my knife sharp. When you got a really sharp knife like that, it just glides through food. You do not even feel the food. It just goes. That's a good feeling. Feels accomplished. Whew. There it goes. I wish I could show you. Can you see in there? Rover? You can kind of see in there. I should be shooting this in 6K so you could punch in a lot, but I'm not shooting it in 4K. Like a simp. I wonder if I put enough cheese, which is a wild thing to say because I put like probably a third of a pound of cheese on there. Maybe more. And I'm gonna eat every single bite of it. That's one of my favorite things about, cooking for yourself, is the feeling of utter justification at eating anything. Not that you need justification. All right. And I need a bigger spoon. We're gonna need a bigger spoon. Oh, no, this is perfect. Again, I'm not trying to sell you. I'm so happy with a lot of like the Babish line of products, like the spoons. I specified to them I want a big freaking spoon with a skinny freaking stem. I was like, I want the spoon from the Matrix. Give me the Matrix spoon. And they said, how high? And I was like, it's not exactly what I said, but I understand and I appreciate where your head's at. Very close, very, very close. We just need some brown spots to form. Oh man, your boy's eating well tonight. Plus I have so much left over here. And it's very well seasoned. I know I didn't add any salt to that. I think all the salt came from the soy sauce. And I don't know if fish sauce and Worcestershire have salt in them. They must. This is not the right time to be checking. Yeah, there's salt in Worcestershire. All the salt came from that. And maybe there was some in the broth too. This is important to taste for seasoning frequently because so many elements of what you're cooking with can have seasoning in them. So always check as you're going and always check right before you serve. I sampled that like 3 or 4 times. I knew it was good. So always check right before you serve to make sure it's properly seasoned. Okay. We're pretty much there. Oh my God. Nope, more. I want more color. I do. I want more color. I want more color. This is a cooking show. Things need to look right. But if things go wrong, things are going to go wrong on this show someday. And I hope I don't just toss it in the bin. but I want you guys to be able to cook along with me. Let me know what you would want me to do if I screwed things up. Like if I were to leave French onion soup right on the edge of being done under the broiler for like a minute too long because I was talking. Okay, all right, I'm calling it. Oh. Guys, come on. Okay, I am going to turn it around because this side does look better. So I'm going to flip it just for the sake of thumbnails and food styling and whatnot. There we go. All right, and let me get it off of this tray so that I hate putting really hot things on the bare countertop because it dries it out, but for the sake of a thumbnail, I think I gotta do it. Oh, dude. Okay, here we go. It's game time. Let's eat the soup. I just heard my water heater turn on. To what end? Is there somebody upstairs? Did somebody sneak into my house? Possible. Not likely. I don't even care. I do. Okay. Here we go, folks. Let's get that cheese stretch going. Oh, dude. Come on. And yeah, no, the 4 pieces of bread totally worked because now this is, I mean, it's a big bite, but I can fit it in my mouth at least. Oh, man. I can see all the bone marrow on the toast underneath the cheese. Let's see how much of a difference it might have made. I didn't garnish with chives. That was legitimately one of the best bites of food I've ever taken in my life. Oh my God. The garlic is right there. I mean, there's probably, you know, there's a fair amount of shaved garlic on there. Like on those toasts, there were 8 of them, right? I shaved half a clove of garlic. That's a lot of garlic. So the garlic is there, but it's not punching me in the face. It's not overwhelming. The bone marrow is absolutely there. This is the beefiest tasting French onion soup I've ever tasted. I'm gonna see if I can get another good shot here. Let's get it going. Well, not bad. I'll take it. Yeah, the bone marrow makes this so freaking beefy. It's so rich. And then the depth of flavor in the soup and the Gruyere, everything's perfect. Everything's perfect. And there's just so much cheese. There's just so much cheese. And there's that bread in the bottom. I knew I should have gone with the smaller pieces because it is hard to wrangle. But God. It was the last bite I'll eat on camera, I promise. Oh. It is at turns sweet and rich and savory and sharp from the cheese and funky from the cheese and the marrow. That's extraordinary. I know that, like, according to my reviews at the end of these episodes, I'm 3 for 3, but that's unbelievable. That is definitely the best French onion soup I've ever had. No offense, Marseille, that was great, and thank you very much to the folks there who took care of me that night. But it's not just the best French onion soup I've ever had. This is one of the best foods I've ever had. It's exquisite. And it's like, French onion soup is meant to be an appetizer. It's just something you have while you're waiting for your food. And I know this is gonna be the only thing I eat tonight because it's so rich. I'm gonna have chocolate too. Don't worry. But, whew, well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for making this show possible. Thank you for cooking along with me. And as always, keep cooking. I will if you will. Now, I need to find a way to safely consume this soup without burning off my... That'll do it.